So, now I can say, welcome to MAGFest 2026 and How to Puzzle Hunt. My name is Sara Winters.
Hi everyone, I'm Weil.
Both of us were on the writing team of Mystery Hunt 2024. I was the creative director.
I was primarily a puzzle writer, but did some initial concept work for the creative team.
And today we're going to teach you a little bit about the history of puzzle hunts, what they are, how they work, and then how to solve them. Because nothing's better than diving into a good puzzle. So this is our agenda for today. At the end of all our slides, we will have a slide with a QR code of where to find these slides. So if you want to reference anything later, feel free to just snap a photo near the end and you'll be able to access those slides whenever you want. So, what is a puzzle hunt?
So, puzzle hunts are large-scale competitions where individuals or teams of individuals solve puzzles. Sounds simple enough. This is very specifically structured, though. In puzzle hunts, you've got two types of puzzles: feeder puzzles and meta puzzles. Feeder puzzles give you clues to the meta puzzle. You are not expected to solve every feeder puzzle. To win, though, you've got to solve every meta puzzle.
So here's examples of different kinds of puzzle hunt puzzles. You'll be familiar with some of them if you do Sunday crosswords, Sudokus, or if you're a member of Puzzmo or PuzzUp or any of those things. But then there's also some curveballs, and the larger the hunt or the more in person that hunt is, the more likely you're going to say, receive a box of Dunkin' Donuts where all the donuts have USB sticks attached to them. That was from Mystery Hunt, what, 2019?
That was 2019.
Yeah.
I was really angry I didn't get the donuts. This was really fun during COVID when they had to mail this stuff to people's houses.
I got mailed a literal bag of shredded paper.
Someone got mailed a piggy bank that said, "Do not smash until Mystery Hunt."
But anyway, this is the general hunt structure. Some puzzles, and you'll notice the more you do puzzle hunts, the more individual puzzles may break these rules, but you'll typically see a title, some kind of description of the puzzle, a place to enter your answer, any story text if it has it, and then the puzzle itself. And then those puzzles will be grouped into a set of puzzles that make a meta puzzle.
Two things worth noting in structure.
There's some seats up front if you need them.
Everything in here is fair game as far as clues go. Everything. If it's on the page, you can use it. And two, as far as puzzle descriptions go, do not expect instructions. Figuring out what to do with what you've been given is usually 90% of the battle.
So we're going to look at, you're interested in doing a puzzle hunt now. Finding one that fits your lifestyle needs and, say, cost and also location, kind of important because we're MIT Mystery Hunt puzzlers. I've been doing it since 2011, and
I think I've been doing it since 2016. I don't keep good track of it.
But
sad.
But there's lots of other puzzle hunts out there of different sizes and scales, and jumping into the deep end of, say, Mystery Hunt, which is one of the hardest in the world, may not be the right fit for everybody. So let's look at a little bit of history. You know the older history better than I do.
So going back to the 50s, we have this British trend of letterboxing.
The 1850s.
1850s, goodness, you are entirely correct there. These were puzzles that were almost the precursors to geocaching. People would leave little riddles that would lead within post boxes, which would lead to other post boxes or lead to little hidden objects. It was a popular diversion of the time, but more of a subculture hobby like it still is today. This evolves as newspapers become involved, and we get the famous Lobby Lud. This was a puzzle in which it was just, find this man. Newspaper gave a description of him. They gave a photo. The winner was whoever found him. We saw, actually, in the 1990s, the Perplexed City ARG really repeated this with their famous Find Satoshi puzzle. They just gave a photo of a guy and that his first name was Satoshi. It was only solved, I believe, 3 years ago. They finally found Satoshi after decades. Willem Dafoe narrated a documentary about it. It's a good watch if you're interested in puzzles. Moving on, though, we go to Stephen Sondheim. How many people in the room are big musical fans? Woo! Fantastic. So you all know Stephen Sondheim. What a lot of people don't know is that he was a huge puzzle nerd. Before he was a musical theater writer, he was a crossword designer. Everyone who lived in New York City while he was alive and did escape rooms had a story about running into him at an escape room and him complaining the entire time about how he could have done it better. Seriously. But he would do these elaborate kind of treasure hunts that weave together stories with live actors, oftentimes friends or relations of his, and puzzles. He wrote some of these actually with his at-the-time boyfriend, Anthony Perkins, who you might know as the murderer from Psycho. Together, they actually wrote a script based on this. If you've ever heard of the movie The Last of Sheila, it is about a bunch of rich people who end up involved in a real murder while on a murder mystery puzzle vacation together. Great movie, really catty. If you like kind of campy 70s stuff, strong recommendation. But I digress. Speaking of campy 70s stuff, though, we get to Masquerade. This was a lavishly illustrated book sold at a premium price because in addition to a book, it was also a treasure hunt. This was for armchair solvers, people who didn't want to leave the house, but wanted a real good puzzle challenge. So, throughout this book, something would indicate the location of a real-life buried treasure. This one was actually found. There were a number of imitators where these treasures were never found, though, and are still out there to this day. The 80s, we get the MIT Mystery Hunt, our personal favorite, which has kind of turned into the World Series of puzzles. Teams from all over the world, enormous teams. We were on a team of, I believe, 150 the year we won.
Yes.
Enormous teams will compete to solve hundreds of puzzles over Martin Luther King Day weekend.
Which is next weekend.
You're all welcome. It's free. Please register and talk to us afterwards if you're interested in trying it. I recommend diving in the deep end. It worked for me. If you call this working. But no, the MIT Mystery Hunt has broad, elaborate puzzles. There will be something for you. You might have to wait all weekend to get it, but there will be something for you. Around this time, it's also worth talking about the Crystal Maze, a popular British TV show. Yes, absolutely. I'm a huge Crystal Maze fan, especially original Richard O'Brien version. The Crystal Maze was immersive theater meets game show. Teams of usually dim-witted and poor puzzle skill solvers running through puzzles, physical challenges, with the risk that if they took too long on a puzzle, they could get locked in the room, all for the chance to go into a cash grab machine to try to win one of the usual crappy prizes they give away on British game shows. But currently it is alive as an experience in central London. If you ever are in the area, you can pay to be a Crystal Maze participant. 2001, we see the rise of ARGs. For any of you who saw AI, Artificial Intelligence, or played, I believe it was Halo 2 or 3.
Yeah, I Love These.
It was I Love These. Those were considered kind of the two big first ARGs in the public space.
Yep.
These are puzzles that bridge the gaps between fantasy and reality. Real-life clues might point you to websites mentioning fictional events.
I lost my spot.
There we go.
Sorry, it blinked for a sec.
And then last, I bet a lot of you have done escape rooms before. Escape rooms are a type of puzzle hunt. If you've done an escape room, you are officially a puzzle hunter. Welcome to the club. If you're at this panel and look at the puzzle at first, you're officially a puzzle hunter. Welcome to the club. But this is a series of puzzles that guide you on some sort of narrative adventure. That's a form of puzzle hunt. We might have been talking here about the most formal, most didactic, strictest form of puzzle hunt. But it's all puzzles and we're all here to have a good time. So that is a brief overview of puzzle hunts.
So now we're going to look at different types of puzzle hunts to maybe figure out what kind is the kind for you. The first category is outdoor hunts. These are typically like single-day, localized events, high production items, things like the Great Gotham Challenge.
Any New Yorkers in here? Oh, Great Gotham Challenge players here? Oh my God, you are lucky people. The Great Gotham Challenge is, if you ever saw the movie Midnight Madness, think that. Clues sending you from landmark to landmark, solving puzzles at each to find the next one, usually with drinks or snacks at the end. Really good time, really worth doing. No real prizes. You're doing that one for the fun.
But also there's geocaching, scavenger hunts. These are hunts that take use of their space first and foremost. The puzzles may be on the easier side because it's really about running around typically a very large area, like, say, New York City or your own hometown. I know there's a few pick-up-and-play scavenger hunts throughout the D.C. area where you like pay $15 or $20 and you're given a challenge to get from one landmark to another with clues to tell you where to go next. If you're a beginner hunter or if you want to hunt on your own time, the things outside of the timed events like Gotham Challenge, this is a great way to attempt these. Some of them are free, some of them are a small fee, and you just get a list of clues, or you get a clue, and then your next location will have the clue there for you.
The other thing that's worth mentioning about these is that they tend to be a little bit on the spectacle-heavy side.
Mm-hmm.
One of the axes on which puzzle hunts are really measured is between high production value, flashy, cast of thousands, and treasure hunt book for your own armchair. Either one is fine. The obsessive Sondheim knowledge, you can probably guess which one I prefer, but, strongly recommend either.
And on the other end of the scale, you've got your at-home and online puzzles. Some of them may be physical books which you can buy, like Myrtle or any of those kinds. Some of them may be online-only hunts, like a couple of the teams that regularly hunt at Mystery Hunt do annual online-only hunts. And their difficulty ranges very strongly, but they're typically free or very low cost. They're online. You do them at your own pace. They're a lot of fun. Galactic Puzzle Hunt is popular. Puzzle Boat was last month.
There was one famous year when Alinea, the Michelin star restaurant in Chicago, sponsored a puzzle hunt for a free dinner at Alinea for the winners. I'm really angry I didn't win that one to this day.
And a lot of modern ARGs, like say the Gravity Falls Hunt, took place online. There were clues hidden in books that were sold that led you to this website, and then you could crack it with additional codes. When I was growing up, the way I got into this was doing what was called MAGFest, which was an annual puzzle hunt that took place entirely online. Everybody who completed it got a very large quantity of free, very good, and very expensive Mac software.
I got into this because I saw the Cloverfield trailer.
Then we have location-specific hunts. These are things like your MIT Mystery Hunts. These are things like Club Drosselmeyer. They take place over a very short period of time. They can be on the easier side, like Drosselmeyer, where you can just enjoy the club, or you can do the puzzles, all the way up to things like Mystery Hunt, where you are here for the puzzles. The puzzles are 72 hours. Finish your puzzles now.
Any Bostonians in the room? Close enough. Strong recommendation for Club Drosselmeyer. Think swing dance nutcracker nightclub with vague World War II theming, but also a puzzle track and really good cocktails.
So we've given you sort of a overview of finding your hunt type. Here is depending on what kind of hunt you want, here's a list based on how hard they are. And also remember, we're not from this area, so we can't really give too many recommendations for the BC area, but there's always hunts and really good escape rooms close to you.
Towards the end of this panel, and it will be included in the slides, we actually have a link to a really good resource that is a calendar that you can sort by region. There will be something close to you, even if close to you is online.
So a good friend of ours, and someone from Team Palindrome.
Get your head out of the gutter, not that kind of spiciness.
His name is Ben Smith. He invented the scale of puzzle event spiciness. So this is a very sort of big overview of the big hunts around the world. And the left side is less spicy. This does not necessarily mean that the right is harder. It is more taxing. So taxing can be difficulty. Taxing can be how much time you have, as in how little time. MIT Mystery Hunt is both very hard puzzles and a very short time period in which to finish them. That doesn't mean that there's only hard puzzles there. You can definitely do MIT Mystery Hunt, have a good time solving some of the easier puzzles. In MIT Mystery Hunt, they call these puzzles fish puzzles. But if you are looking for a more relaxed or easier puzzle hunt, starting on the left side of the scale will probably get you what you're looking for.
That is also to be said, though, there are some really hard things on the left side of the scale.
Yeah.
The aforementioned Masquerade book took years to solve. However, it was something that you could pick at every evening in front of your fire with your cat. This is not high pressure. This is not high stakes. This has none of the grind of the MIT Mystery Hunt. That being said, I'll also say You can also approach the MIT Mystery Hunt at whatever spiciness level you want. It's your hunt. You don't have to win. Many people don't want to win because the winners have to make the next year's hunt.
That's how we made ours. Congrats, you won.
Condolences, you won. My favorite part of Mystery Hunt is usually curling up maybe night 2 when everyone's completely loopy, pouring myself an amaretto, and seeing what absolute nightmares are left on the board. Well, everyone is just kind of... Ugh.
So, we've been throwing around a lot of terminology and given you a few quick definitions as we've gone, but let's formalize some of it so that everyone's on the same page.
So, just going through some puzzle definitions. A puzzle, this is the basic thing you are trying to solve. It is an input of data that will have an output of an answer in the simplest way. A feeder or a standalone puzzle. That's a puzzle you can just tackle without tackling any other puzzles. You don't need anything that doesn't come from... Well, actually, let me correct myself. You don't need any other puzzle to help solve that puzzle. You might need Google, you might need a calculator, but you can solve that puzzle with just that puzzle. Contrast that, though, with a meta puzzle. Maybe you'll have 10 feeder puzzles in a round, and all of those feeder puzzles will somehow, be it through their mechanics or more typically their answers, inform how you solve the meta puzzle. To the right, we have an example of a standalone puzzle. This was a puzzle in the Unknown 9 ARG, which promoted a media franchise that absolutely fell apart. It was a great ARG for a product that really kind of faded to dust. Still, if you can find an archive of it, strong recommendation because it is an ARG that really teaches you a lot of puzzle-solving fundamentals. Now there's the difference between a clue and a hint. A clue, think like a detective. You have found a clue at the crime scene. This is going to guide you to the answer. The crime scene is your puzzle. A clue is anything in the puzzle that guides you to an answer. A hint, on the other hand, comes from outside the puzzle. I've called up the writer. Sarah, I'm so stuck. This is terrible. What's the first thing I should do? How do I even approach this puzzle?
Start by looking at what the lines are telling you to do.
Okay, Sarah just gave me a hint.
The puzzle didn't say that. The
Sarah.
Writers did. In the same way that when we started and I showed you the puzzle, I gave you a hint. That puzzle is about video games.
Happy to move on.
So, terms for hunt structure. We have a puzzle hunt is different than a book of puzzles in that typically there is, because there's a time limit, there's a formalized structure. Most puzzle hunts start with something called a kickoff. This is usually a way to open and tell you the story of the hunt. Like our year, when people signed up for the hunt, they were signing up for an astronomy convention, not knowing what the convention was about. So the kickoff was the astronomers were deciding whether or not to allow Pluto to remain in our solar system.
Unfortunately, the astronomers kicked Pluto out of the solar system. The Roman gods, furious at this flight, then cursed all the puzzle hunters, sending them to the underworld. As such, the theme that year was an underworld escape before an attempt to make things right and reinstate Pluto.
So, basically, midway through, all the Greek gods stormed the stage. People suddenly discovered, oh, this isn't going to be about space. This is going to be about Greek gods. We're going to need to appease these gods.
A good 95% of the time, MIT has a red herring hunt. The most famous one in recent years was the Ayn Rand hunt that turned out to be an Alice in Wonderland hunt. They're both writing complete nonsense.
So then we have rounds. And like we mentioned with feeder puzzles and meta puzzles, a round contains typically one meta puzzle, sometimes more. Last year's hunt, 2025, one round had, 5 meta puzzles in the same round?
There was one famous round the year we won that was the infinite meta puzzle Ouroboros round. That was terrible.
Terrifying.
Very well constructed. I went to sleep.
So rounds can contain typically one theme. All the feeder puzzles will lead to the meta puzzles within that round. I don't think I've seen any exception to that rule so far.
Maybe a round might have no meta once in a blue moon. But generally, a round is several feeders leading into a capstone and so forth.
Yep. A runaround at MIT Mystery Hunt, they're done at the end. At the Puzzle Hunt at PAX, they're done whenever you want, but lead to an end puzzle. It's a chance to get up, move, solve some simpler puzzles in a physical space. Since these are done in person, you might as well do some stuff in person. You can solve MIT Mystery Hunt online, and I tend to be a remote solver most of the time because I'm legally blind and cannot drive.
I tend to be a remote solver most of the time. I'm in medical school. I'm not traveling.
But there are always going to be some number of puzzles, including something like a runaround, that must be done in person in order to finish.
That isn't to say they won't need someone in the chair. Batman needs Oracle.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're at home, you still get to play the runaround. You might just not be running around.
Then, independent of the runaround, MIT Mystery Hunt and some puzzle hunts have a scavenger hunt. This is not like, say, oh, bring us 5 eggs. This is like, in one year, it was themed around touching grass. One of them was stage a protest to remind people to touch grass. Another topic was touch grass in a digital environment and show us proof. So our team made a level in Baba Is You where the goal was to touch grass.
If you're more of a scavenger hunt person, the University of Chicago actually runs the preeminent scavenger hunt, or at least they did. I think it's still going on. That famously has such crazy items as create a meal that violates as many religious rules as possible. Create a hammer and sickle out of press-on nails.
And finally, a lot of hunts that are in person will have some kind of wrap-up after the hunt is over to talk about, hey, this team won, condolences. And here are all the submissions, like all the scavenger hunt items that people did throughout the weekend.
One fun thing about the MIT Mystery Hunt that I wish more hunts would adopt, and some do, a lot of answers will resolve into a creative submission. You can get an answer that says something like, oh, we've solved the puzzle and the output is record an award-winning movie. You then get a little creative challenge to actually solve the puzzle. Those oftentimes get showcased at a wrap-up.
So terms related to solving, we've got flavor text. This is a little blurb underneath the puzzle that often has clues about how to solve it.
We have cipher text, something encoded. Honestly, just download a cipher solver spreadsheet and plug everything into everything. 90% of the time, you'll hit on something. There's some classic ciphers we'll go through later, though, if you want to go a little bit less of a brute force route.
Yes, and some puzzle hunts will even straight up give you, your team, a booklet of, here's all the common ciphers, just so that you don't need to run around looking for them. This is Braille, this is semaphore, whatever. So everybody's on the same page. But unless a hunt says otherwise, you are always allowed to use outside sources. That would be, say, friends you know who are not hunting for any team, or the internet. And in some cases, you must. MIT Mystery Hunt specifically almost always has a puzzle that involves looking at previous yearbooks. That is, if you notice, if you're on campus and for whatever reason the yearbook office is open 24 hours for this one specific weekend, you're probably going to have a yearbook puzzle sometime that weekend.
I'll just say, as a puzzle writer, my favorite thing is when I find a large, weird data set. You'll see a puzzle of mine coming up in a slide or two that was mostly inspired by all the kind of inane trivia every anime character has appended to them. Everyone has a favorite food. Everyone has a height. Everyone has a blood type, a star sign.
Now, what's the difference between a shell and a pure meta?
Shell meta. We get some structure, and we're plugging those answers into it that we got from the beta puzzles. Maybe we even have little fill-in-the-blanks for what those answers are. Pure meta, just a flavor text, figure out what we're going to do with those answers. A pure meta is considered perhaps the most elegant version of this. I find them frustrating. Shell metas are considered maybe a little bit clunky. I find them fun and dramatic.
And unless a hunt says otherwise, and they will usually explicitly say the rules, there are ways that you are allowed and expected to break puzzles. Here is an example from the Samalema Ding Dong ARG that happened, if any of you guys are Dropout fans. Woo-hoo! Samalema Ding Dong had to be entered into this text box 10,000 times. They didn't say that you couldn't use an automatic typist. So it's one word, it's the same word 10,000 times. Why doesn't one person with a computer have their computer type it 10,000 times?
It went very quickly.
Yes.
One person solved it, it was game over.
But certain puzzle hunts will expect someone to know how to code, expect someone on your team to maybe brute force something. Wasn't there like a Minesweeper / like Jenga type puzzle?
There was the Minesweeper / Sudoku puzzle that was a nightmare. And the one that I'm thinking of that really expected you to break the code was one called Count to 100, where a group of people had to, in a text box, together, count to 100 accurately with odd, bizarre interruptions, hatches, things like that, jumping in and attacking them and interrupting the order somehow.
There was an owl who demanded answers in numbers, and then that was a number you were counting out of order. So someone had to be on standby to look up quick trivia and answer in full words.
The only way you could know what was coming and the only way you could possibly solve this was to look in the back-end code. That was expected. It's MIT. There's going to be a coder on each team.
So, some basic puzzle types.
You know crosswords. Keep it going.
But what about a variety crossword?
Variety crosswords are oddball crosswords. This is a classic one called a Rose Garden. There might not be rules given for this one because people have seen it before. Not only are you putting things in each row, you are doing circular words, although you don't know where they start and end in the circle, in each row around one of those central axes. So, really fun, really classic type. They're not going to get the rules for. You're going to get rules for some weird variants. People will invent their own bizarre variant crosswords.
Yeah, if the weirder the variant, the more explicit they will be with actual rules on how to solve it.
The famous nightmare gridless crossword, where you just have to figure out how they intersect.
Or that it even is a crossword. There was one a couple years ago. I'm legally blind. It was a crossword I could solve because you were digitally walking around in a virtual space. It was one of the COVID ones.
It was a fake Cabo Hotel, but the floor was a crossword.
And it was all audio.
It was. Yes.
And then we've got cryptics, my least favorite kind of crossword.
Okay, these. I'm sorry to all the cryptic lovers in the audience. I find these insufferable. But basically, each question will have both a literal definition hidden in it and a wordplay definition hidden in it.
Which half is which?
Figure it out yourselves.
Here is a very basic answer of how a cryptic crossword might look. A clue. 2 + 11 - 1, amazingly.
Amazingly is our wordplay here. It's one of these classic things that says, scramble it. Amazingly, someone who knows cryptics and has been doing them for a while will know, all right, that's an anagram word. I'm just going to run for that. But here we can see 2 + 11 - 1. If we take OEN out of 211, we have an anagram of 12, which is also the literal definition. The same answer resolves from both the wordplay and the literal definition.
And that's how cryptic crosswords work. There is a British newspaper whose name is escaping me at the moment who does a little daily teaser just like this. Yeah. Yes, the Telegraph. Thank you. Yeah, so if you want to learn how to do this puzzle type, which clearly both of us are not fans of, but a lot of people are.
We hate them because we're bad at them. Let's be clear. This is pure resentment.
I, on the other hand, I'm a zebra logic person. One of these shows up in a mystery hunt, I'm like, please give this to me.
Do we have any lawyers in the room? Anyone taking the LSAT? You're going to be good at these.
These are required for the LSAT functionally.
Yeah.
So, zebra logic puzzles they give you a list of a written list of things. Like, Susie does not want to stand next to Charles, and she may wear a blue sweater.
Charles ordered the fish.
Yeah. And you have to figure out where they're seated, what color they're wearing, and what they ordered.
Think Clue without the board.
Yeah. If you want to get good at these, there is a popular book series called Myrtle, which we have shown there. That is just these kinds of puzzles.
We love these puzzles.
Yeah. The other kind I like a lot of the Japanese logic puzzles. So these, rather than using words, they'll use colors, shapes, or numbers. Things like this one, we have a Masu, we have we have what's called a Pictopix or
Picross, or nonograms. This one has 800 names.
Yeah. Again, the more obscure they are, the less likely that they, the more likely that they will actually explicitly tell you, this is a blank. Okay, now go solve it.
There have been years where things can be 8 things at once, though.
Yeah.
I have seen crosswords that are also Picross. Don't ask me how that works.
But the more common ones, Masu kind of being sort of the breaking point before they start telling you that this is an X. At the Galactic Puzzle Hunt a couple years ago, it was Magic the Gathering themed, and you were literally playing cards on a Magic the Gathering style board, except that your opponents all played by weird rules, and one of your opponents was named Miss You, and you were essentially playing Masu with your Magic the Gathering cards. If your card went between a black and white, it was immediately obliterated on their turn. And figuring out that, oh, they're actually playing Masu. Now I have to solve a Masu while playing Magic the Gathering? Good luck.
There was a crossword that was a Tetris one year. That was awful.
So now we're getting a little meta here with an identify, sort, index, solve. And if you hear us not saying what the acronym is, there's a reason for that. That is, if we're being meta here, the identification is the very puzzle that this panel started with is one of these kinds of puzzles. It is identify what this thing is talking about. There often isn't any kind of helper text here. It's figuring out, oh, I gave you that hint. It's about a video game. Well, what video game is involved here? Identifying that. Then sorting the data. Once you realize what this is about, sorting the information you have, indexing that data, cross-referencing it, and then you can solve it.
A truly bizarre version of this that I think was the best puzzle the two of us ever played together. Someone programmed an entire dating sim about luge stars, which at the end of which you had to go on a luge course. The big solve was figuring out that this wasn't a dating sim. It was a Carmen Sandiego game. You were trying to identify what city they were in by their little date activities, so you knew the actual terms of their luge course.
At the end, you had to luge with your husbando, and all you were given were, are you turning left or right? N number of times. And if you got one wrong because you didn't know which luge course in the world you were in.
I can't date you. We're a poor luge match.
And we're talking full, not voice acting, but full music. Full music, full art.
Dozens of character sprites. This was elaborate. This was
our puzzle. This meta puzzle.
I wrote this meta puzzle. All you received was the notes for season 1 of a dating show. Some of you who are anime fans might recognize some of these couples. And you had some bizarre kind of cryptic clues coming in the forms of the answers from the prior puzzles, the feeder puzzles for that meta round. You would notice early on that there was pretty much one answer for each couple. So pretty good bet you're going to have to match things here. I'm not going to spoil this one right here because I'm very proud of it. But if anyone wants to talk after the show, I'm happy to give the rundown on this one because it's a complete nightmare.
And finally, runarounds, as we mentioned before. This is the one from 2011. So runarounds are a way to get out of your seat. Typically, they're easier puzzles. This one here was from that Atlas Shrugged / Alice year. We had to disassemble an IKEA bed with no tools. What it turned out to be was that it was a lock-picking puzzle. The bed itself was a giant lock that needed to be picked by essentially tilting it like a pinball table. And so this puzzle required about 20 people to all grab onto a piece of the bed and physically manipulate it and listen for the lock tumbles inside the bed, and then it would all just separate.
For those of you who are worried, what happens if I don't make it to the runaround? A lot of times they'll try to keep these runaround puzzles running. Whoever wants to attempt them end of the weekend. Sometimes they run out of time, but there's a pretty good chance you can take a shot at it at some point, even if not for the prize. And 2, oftentimes there will be runaround-like events. Things like
a mid-hunt runaround.
A mid-hunt runaround. Well, not just the mid-hunt runaround, but scheduled events maybe you can win hints from participating that get people out of their chairs in groups. Oftentimes these will be things like social deduction games, odd little game changer style mini games.
One year, Cards Against Humanity actually sponsored one, and it was designing it yourself, and you won an actual custom deck just for that year of Mystery Hunt for your team. So
it was also a puzzle.
It was also a puzzle. And a point of a runaround is get out of your seats, go see other teams, go see other members, see the place that you're actually physically going to.
MIT is gorgeous and strange. It is filled with weird art. Look at it, please, if you're on campus.
Whereas the PAX Unplugged hunt would take you around to all the different smaller booths at the convention, getting to see some places that you might have skipped or missed. And then there's also fun events like this. I'm going to skip the video part of this, mostly because the audio is not working right now. But last but not least, those physical puzzles we mentioned. During COVID, they were mailed to us. That on the left was the actual bag of shredded paper that had been mailed to me. One team decided to frame it.
The radio was used for dozens of puzzles in this previous year's puzzle hunt, which was film noir themed. So this was our little detective's office radio. The big twist ending, it wasn't a radio, it was a theremin.
Yeah, so not only did it actually function as a radio, you could play music on it, as in use it as a theremin. Also, if you figured out the secret specific tune and went to certain parts of campus, you got rickrolled, which was, by the way, a puzzle.
If they don't say it's not a puzzle, it's a puzzle. If they don't say it's not a puzzle, it's a puzzle. Every time.
We hit a puzzle in the actual badges that everybody had to wear. And the final piece of the puzzle was finding a staff member who had the missing key on the rest of the badges.
We're not immune.
So some puzzle hunt etiquette, of course. Have fun. And if you're not having fun, tell the people who are running the hunt. If it's a virtual hunt, you can email them. If it's a physical hunt and you're remote, email them. If you're there in person, go to their HQ. It will be listed for you.
Oftentimes, answers might feel like you're breaking the rules. You can always ask, hey, can I do this? I have been to escape rooms that break the cardinal rule of don't smash things. Every time I feel like I'm about to get shot or get like a $500 bill at the end of the day, ask first. You will have a better time if you ask first.
There was a heist theme year a few years ago where you literally needed to break in and enter somewhere, and they had two people planted outside the building that you needed to sneak into. You could ask them, like, hey, am I supposed to do this for a hunt? Even at the puzzle hunt at Unplugged this past year, we had to break into an office. We went to the answer was like, break into Rubik's Cube, as in Rubik's office cube. Because, of course, MIT Mystery Hunt and all puzzle hunters are just big nerds who like to pun. We went up to the people and we're like, I think we need to break into somebody's office. And it's like, what, whose office? Whose office do you need? I'm like, Rubik's? And he's like, yeah. When the hunt organizers are indicating, do it. Yes. That's their space. You're not breaking the law. But if they're like, absolutely not, you are on the wrong path, stop what you're doing immediately, they will not lie about this kind of thing.
There was a famous Great Gospel Challenge year that went completely off the rails when a random interloper started pretending to be a clue master and giving people food on the street, which people were eating, and then shocked to find no notes or USBs from the inside. We called and went, well, we think the clue was missing from the brownie. And they went, what brownie? Oh, you're at the old Astor Place Theater. We meant for the clue to send you to the new Astor Place Theater.
In one year, we thought we had to go into a building because there was a picture of one. We didn't. The actual website was broken. It should have just opened a new section of the website. But we called them and they clarified, no, do not break into that building. That is not the puzzle. So if you think you need to break the law in any way, that is breaking the code of the website, breaking a physical object, entering a building that you're not supposed to, check with hunt organizers. They will tell you outright if you are or not allowed to do that thing.
The final rule is just keep your voice down in a shared space. Everyone's trying to focus on these puzzles. People oftentimes aren't sleeping or eating very well. They should, but they're not. So people can get a bit snappy. Just work on your puzzle in your space, treating everyone as a friend and neighbor.
So now how to solve these puzzles. Getting started, the first thing you want to look at is look at the pieces of the puzzles that you've been given. Have you been given a title? Have you been given any flavor text? What are you missing that you would expect to see there?
There are also some conventions that you should be used to. The numbers, the famous numbers. Usually a number can either give you length of a word or an index into the word. Sometimes you can get both from that. So, for example, if you would.
Which one? The Rocky, for example.
We have a 5 and a 2. The 5 is coming first. Typically, that's length of the word, just by convention. 5-letter word for Rocky. B-O-X-E-R. Okay, boxer. Index 2. B-O. Second letter 2. We can extract the letter O from that word.
Look for patterns. So,
this is going to be ask the audience.
Yeah.
Whoever can get the pattern in each of these, I'd like you to call it out first. And if no one gets them in about 20 seconds, I'm going to throw to Sarah.
Yep.
Because we are unfortunately on the
We got 15 minutes left.
Yep.
Yeah. Number 1 is double letters. Number 2. Yes. Shown has 1. Network has 2. Seth Reeves has 3.
Someone's done their connection.
Yeah. Sample 3 is the toughest one, but I think if anybody can get it, it's this group. That is a hint unto itself. Yes! Dominion expansions!
I said Castlevania subtitles. I'm a bad nerd.
So, eyes on the answer. In most hunts, when you have an answer box, that means that you're looking for a word in alphanumerics. Occasionally, that will break. And when that does, that usually is a hint in and of itself to the meta puzzle. For example, one year, the answers were all like 400 letter long ASCII images that ended up getting overlaid onto each other to form a different image. In our year, we had a round where all the answers included a hyphen.
That was the big hint.
Yeah. So, yeah. So it was a slash, yeah. So that slash ended up being mirrors in a mirror puzzle. So common extraction techniques, as we said before, 4 will tell you how far. It could be A1, Z26, where you turn numbers into letters, A being 1, B being 2, etc. Binary, 15 or 16 digits, you may be straight up drawing something out. Like if it's a map puzzle and you're like, I'm driving from this city to this city, plotting those out on a map might give you letters that will lead you to an answer. And other feeder answers in the same round, they may not give you any information on the puzzle that you're solving, but if you've solved a few of them, you might start noticing patterns there.
You also might notice no patterns and be totally lost. That's okay too, because we're going to get to back solving later.
Yep. So there's common words that you might see. Again, some hunts may even straight up give you a little booklet, braille, semaphore, but how they may be in the puzzle might be unusual. In our year, we had a braille puzzle that was a bunch of poker chips. And those chips on a table, when you finished, like, people made bets, you had to follow the bets of different poker hands. When it was all over, the chips that were left out in front of each person spelled out something in braille. Semaphore might be hidden in lines in the circle.
If someone gives you military time, immediately start thinking semaphore, plot it onto a clock, the hands are going to be there. Semaphore is the one that's going to bite you in the butt at like 3 a.m. You're going to forget semaphore and you're going to remember me saying this and you're going to hate me.
Musical notation's another great one because that can spell some words. It's the first couple of letters in the English alphabet. There's a lot of different things that can encode information.
We once did one based off USDA beef grading varieties.
And if you're stuck,
Google everything. The first thing I do with any puzzle is literally almost throw, if any word is unfamiliar, if there's any proper names, everything is going into Google.
If something is capitalized that normally wouldn't be, that's probably something worth Googling.
generally speaking, you are able to do that. Another couple things are just of note. One, use every part of the puzzle. If there's something you haven't touched, you probably missed a step. And two, the do it again step. One that I'm not a huge fan of. But say you've done the whole puzzle based on homophones, and you come up with the answer ATEBAWL. That's not being accepted as a correct answer. Well, you've done a whole homophone round. What do you think the next step is? Jump in with the classic spelling of H-ball, and voila, you've solved it. I always forget to do that one.
Yeah. So remember, if you haven't used a piece of a puzzle yet, and that includes flavor text, it's there for a reason. Why that word choice? If you see words like feel, touch, it's probably a Braille puzzle. There's a whole list over here. Again, we'll have the slides available for you at the end. I just want to make sure we get through everything. Why this order? A lot of puzzles, the order will be one of three common ways. The first way is that the answers are alphabetized. And when that happens, that typically means the order is actually random and you're going to need to resort them later. The alphabetizing is just for keeping it easy and neat on a spreadsheet. You're going to have to do something to these.
If they seem to be in a random order, they're in the order you want it.
Yeah, well, that's... The second one is that the answers are in alphabetical order and they're helping you cross-check. If we look at this here of these emojis, the first one being aardvark, the second one being apple, and then the fourth one, we know that's a diamond. Well, at this point, we've got enough of a pattern. This is probably answers in alphabetical order. That third one can't be sofa. What words do we think that third image is telling us? Couch or chaise or chair, but definitely not sofa. And then what do we think that word is between diamond and eyes? It could be face or emoji. So it helps us narrow down our answers. But this only starts working once we've got a few patterns to look at. And then the third one is if the questions are in non-alphabetical order and the answers are also not in alphabetical order, it's probably already sorted for you for whatever reason.
That is to say, it might not need a resort, but you'll need some specific instructions for that resort.
And again, as before, don't forget to have fun. And if you're not having fun, contact the organizer. Sometimes, especially with Mystery Hunt, if you're like in 20th place and you're just not enjoying yourself anymore, but you are a team that could definitely solve certain specific puzzles, a hunt organizer might actually unlock a later puzzle for you just to have something that you can do. You're not a competitive team, but they want you to have fun.
Congrats, you're disqualified. Enjoy sandbox mode.
So last but not least, we're going to talk about a couple puzzle hunts that are both either local to you or nearby. And the first one is Puzzled Pint. This is a national puzzle hunt. There is one in most cities in the U.S. and some in Canada as well. And it's free, by the way, but they encourage you to patronize the food or drink establishment that they're held at. Every month they're held at a different bar or tavern that is family friendly. You solve a free puzzle on their website and tell them what city you're in, and that getting the answer will tell you where that hunt is and when. It's a one evening thing. They're usually pretty simple because they're meant to be solved in an evening over drinks. You go there, they're usually family friendly. You solve some puzzles with some strangers for a few hours. You do it again next month. These are in most cities. I know there's one here in DC, there's one in Philly. And one of our friends actually wrote February's hunt, so definitely check it out. Then there's also, if you're a convention hunter, there's no hunts here at MAGFest. Maybe in the future. Huh?
Is that a puzzle?
However,
it's a puzzle.
However, MAGFest does have a couple of like murder mystery items and things that are puzzle adjacent that you definitely should check out. Check the LARP schedule. I know in the past they don't have it this year. They've had small escape rooms here.
If that's this year.
They do have an escape room.
They have an escape room this year.
Okay, they do. Okay, I didn't fully get a chance to check the schedule. This is not the first panel I've run today, so I'm a little harried, so I apologize. But if you want to see a mystery hunt-like experience, definitely mention it to MAGFest. I know that they brought on things because there's been interest. If this is something that interests you, there are other conventions that do this. I've done one at Otakon. I've done a bunch of them at PAX. There are some really cool ones throughout the country that are a little bit easier and meant to fit in with the convention schedule. Last but not least, we're going to single out the MIT Mystery Hunt. It is next weekend. You can hunt remotely or in person. Teams are still looking for individual, what's called an unattached solver. That means you want to solve, but you're not a member of a team. You can fill out a form on that website. That's mitmh2026.com, and they will match you with a team that's looking for unattached solvers. If you just want to hunt for a few hours, if you're an easy hunter, or if you're like, I just want crosswords, you can mention that, and they'll try to find you a team that is looking for someone like you. If you're a huge anime fan, I guarantee you're going to be really useful to a team that's just full of Kansai nerds.
One of my absolute favorite puzzles of all time was a series of SCP entries that didn't seem to match up, actually, to the SCP entry they were referring to. Turns out they were referring to Nendroid numbers.
So it was actually a Nendroid puzzle. So, like...
There will be something for you.
The thing about these really big hunts, when there are that many puzzles, they're going to dig deep into something really weird and esoteric. There is going to be a puzzle where you're the only person on your team that you know the topic.
There was a medicalese puzzle that I remember just demolishing in 5 minutes, and everyone was irritated at me that I didn't give them a chance.
There was an ADGQ puzzle from a couple years ago that I looked at and solved in about 10 minutes because I'm an AGDQ nut. Also, AGDQ is going on right now. Definitely support them. But last but not least, here is the puzzle calendar. Definitely screenshot this. This is every major puzzle hunt in the world. They'll tell you where it is, if it's in person or online or a mix, like Mystery Hunt's a hybrid. How much they cost. A lot of them are free, but some of them do have a fee. And send you straight to the registration. The next couple for the year will be shown and highlighted on there. It's a great resource to find a puzzle hunt that fits your schedule and your needs. Last but not least, these slides. And with that, we want to say thank you. If you have any questions for us, we will be outside the room so that the next people can set up. Don't come to us up here. We will move outside. Great. Have a wonderful rest of your MAGFest. And there's the puzzle.